What is up, everyone? Train Freak here, and today is layout update. We have continued working on the Delta Binds subdivision. Last week we literally all we had was staging. Staging was finished. Now starting this week we're expanding the bench work out to start including our first town, which we do have one industry up on the layout ready to go. This industry is going to be one of my signature scenes because I custom painted it a specific type of way that you would have seen this industry back in the 1960s and 70s. Now, before we get into too much detail, I would like to mention, hey, tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, Sidetrack Sunday over on Humanity Junction. I got a card in the upper right corner, so make sure you check it out tonight. Like I said, 8 o'clock Eastern, or that would be, I think, 5 o'clock Western, 7 o'clock Central, which is my time, 6 o'clock Mountain, and if you're anywhere else, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to figure out the math on your own. So, let's get to the layout update, which includes this building right here behind me. So let me show you what all I worked on and some of the future things that I plan on doing, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned. Alright, so we're going to start on the bottom level, and you're probably going to hear cows in the background, and that's because I got one of my stock cars on a track, which I was using it for block detection things, which we'll go over here in a little bit. But first, I want to get to the bench work. So this is something that I went ahead and added after adding the grid on there before I put the sheet of plywood on. I needed to make sure that this was very, very sturdy, okay? It's coming out 24 inches from the wall. Anything 18 inches or less, you typically do not have to have these brackets, but I'm more than 18 inches, so I needed a bracket that's at least half. And each one of these brackets, if I'm not mistaken, holds 50 to 60 pounds. So what I did was I took 1x4s, 18 inches. I should have went 18 and a quarter because I forgot to measure for a 1/4 inch plywood, but it's okay. But 18 inches, and then what I did was I took these metal brackets and screwed the 1x4s onto the studs, and then I screwed the metal brackets off to one side. This is something that I saw Ron Marsh, Ron's Trains and Things do on one of his videos several weeks ago. And then what I'm going to do for the backdrop is I'm going to take some 3/4 inch plywood and hope that it's taller than this lip right here. But I'm going to put that 3/4 inch plywood there, and that's what I'll attach my backdrop to for the bottom level. Bottom level is probably going to stick out maybe an inch or two past. So it's probably going to go, up to 26 inches. But that's because of the 1x4, the 3/4 inch plywood on top of it, and the backdrop. I really got to have 24 inch, real estate, because that's going to be the yard. So other thing, so I went ahead and did that all the way down, and just to show you the strength of it, I had Junior hang on it. You can see the picture of him hanging on it right now, and so that way you're not confused that, oh wait, he's just playing a trick. No, I'll show you another picture of him just standing on the ground holding his arms up. He is right at 60 pounds, so it held him up there with no problem for like more than a minute. I have a hard time seeing having 60 pounds worth of layout up here. So that's it as far as bench work goes. My next goal for bench work is to get all the way over to the corner, which means I got to continue doing this here. And then once I do that, then I'm going to be taking a break from bench work for a while, and I will carry on and do things such as scenery. This is practically going to be just a switching layout for the longest until I continue and go around. All right, so last week we talked about staging. Staging is Jonesboro. Well, this is my first town, the town of Weiner, Arkansas. Yep, so go ahead and get your laughs out of the way because I know you're probably about to fall out of your computer chair or recliner or wherever you're sitting at right now. Hopefully you're not driving because I don't want you to have a wreck. But yes, Weiner, Arkansas. It is a real town and the Cotton Belt did serve it. It is south of Jonesboro and north of Brinkley and north of Pine Bluff. So that's where Riceland's going to be. That's one of my main industries. The actual town is just going to be off to the side of it over here where there's no bench work yet. And this way, kind of in front of me where there's no bench work, soon to be bench work because it does angle 45 off, kind of follows that light girder up there. All of this is going to be, it's going to have 3 industries inside of it, maybe a 4th one, don't know yet. Mostly 3, and that's going to be Weiner Industrial. And then we'll have the Weiner Loop go around it. So, as far as the track arrangement, this turnout here does go into the Weiner Industrial, and I drew a line, exactly a 2-inch track space off of that turnout right there. So, as far as the track, everything here is powered all the way up to that switch. So one of the things that someone has questioned me is about how do I come up with my block, because I am doing block detection. I am using JMRI. Let me show you real quick. And this is all up to date. Bring you here. So this is my dispatcher's panel. And yes, it does work. If you listen very carefully, you can hear me throw a turnout switch. I do not know if you heard it or not. But just to show you, let's look at this turnout thrown right here in front of my locomotive. You can see right now it is in a closed position. So let's go and throw it. So that is the turnout to get us to Weiner Industrial, which is this one right there. All right, so you see where it changed on the screen. You come back over here, and now you can see where that turnout has been thrown. So now that track is lined to go to Weiner Industrial. So as far as turnouts and stuff, that's where the NCE Switch 8s come into play, and of course with JMRI. So all of the turnouts on the main line are going to be can be controlled by the dispatcher. So that would be this turnout here. However, you know, the button board that Rick Bailey got me yesterday, or that came in the mail yesterday on the mail train, I'm also going to use that and set up little push button stations for the turnouts for those who are doing the road switching, aka the local. So even if it's on the main line or if it's off the main line out in the main track area, they will have, you know, push button access to those turnouts. They just have to make sure that they radio dispatch for clearance, even though they do have some control. So there you have it with those. As far as turnouts going to the industrial spurs, because there is a speed restriction, I did go ahead and do number 4s, like those right there. But over here, the turnout that goes to the Weiner Loop is a number 6. So I am using number 6s on all the mainline for mainline traffic or for high-speed traffic. For anything that is 30 miles per hour or slower, it can take a number 4. And it should be okay. So my blocks, this is Weiner Riceland. The actual block of Weiner would be that direction. There is going to be another track here because it attaches to the loop and it kind of comes this way and it curves off. Until I get that bench work up, I cannot put that track in at this time. So that would be later down the road. But from the turnout here, your turnout is typically attached to 3 blocks. So this turnout, for example, here would be Weiner. We got Weiner Riceland 2, Weiner Riceland 3. And this will probably be Weiner 2. So use insulated rail joiners right there. So that way it separates your block. Now, on the throat side, you do not need to use insulated rail joiners. You can use regular rail joiners, like right here. And that is because your turnout has to be assigned to a block. It's best just to go ahead and assign it to the block attached to your throat. Now, if you got a long straightaway section of track, you know, let's say that these turnouts weren't here. Then yes, I could, and that turnout wasn't there. I could go ahead and put a block there and name this something and then name the next block something. When you take a long segment of track and you block it up into segments, you can literally have a train in each segment. It allows you to get more traffic on your rails, and that's what the real railroads do. So no block can be too short and no block can be too long. It's all based on personal preference, okay? But typically a turnout is going to create blocks. But like I said, you can always cut your track in the middle and create two separate blocks there. Signaling, we will get into another day because that is a huge complex thing altogether. All right, so that's pretty much where we're at. Everything is wired up. We got turnouts, and they are labeled. I've got another Switch 8. This is the Switch 8 MK2 that I'm going to hook that button board up to. So it's up and going. It's running on track power right now. Rick also got me those little power plugs, so I'm going to have to see if I can't try to find a way to get some auxiliary power to it. And, of course, BD20s. Alright, so the way these BD20s work, because I have been asked. Here, you've got one... I'm going to pull this wire back just a little bit. Alright, so you got your feeders ran down, right? You take only one track, which is this wire here. This one's actually just connected to the main wire. But only one wire runs through that thing. I hope you can see that pretty well. And what this does is this here detects a current, and then this pair of wire, this communication wire that I'm using, is going back to my AIU01, and these are all by NCE. So I'm going to walk all the way over here to my AIU01. There it is. And those red LEDs are the BD20s that are saying, hey, there is something here. And the AIU01 just literally connects to the cab bus, which therefore you have to assign it a cab address. So that's literally how the BD20s work with block detection. Whenever you're building a layout, if you plan on putting in block, if you want block detection, you better put that as your design phase, because it needs to be done right away, so that way you know where to put your insulated rail joiners. So over here you can kind of see all my different blocks right there, but only the thick. Now the ones that are black means that there's no sensor connected to them. And of course I did, went ahead and did the Wiener loop, which I don't have a sensor. I've got it programmed, I just don't have it plugged in, but that's okay. That doesn't really matter. But all the thick track is where my sensors are going to be, like the Wiener Depot, Riceland, Wiener Industrial. Those are not going to have sensors. There's no need for it. Now, staging tracks is a little different, and that's because those are supposed to represent if a train is there, if a train is not. So staging, I recommend doing it, but like your main yard, maybe do it only on the arrival and departure tracks, but your storage tracks, you don't need it. That's just overkill, because if you got one piece of rolling stock in there, that whole block is occupied. So there's no point in it. So other than that, that is pretty much what I worked on this week's layout update. I'm glad to finally have Riceland up here. Some things that I've got ordered for it. So let's talk about some future stuff. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep bench work going all the way to the corner of the wall, and then I'm going to stop. Riceland, what I plan on doing here is I've ordered some LEDs from Woodland Scenics. And their floodlights, I'm going to put one right in front of each silo. So that way it really shines up this Riceland for a good night scene. The other thing I'm looking for is the stairs accessories that I can put here, because that door just looks really weird. So I'm looking for one of those kits. If anyone happens to have one for sale, that would be great, for a good price. But yeah, other than that, that's just kind of where I'm looking at. And I mean, this track is, I think, pretty good and long. I can store 5 40-foot boxcars there, and that's prototypical for 1960. So yeah. So this is going to be the first industry that I will be able to start switching cars in and out of, which is going to be really cool. I am in contact with the Train Junkie for a backdrop. He's going to help me get a good backdrop for this whole thing. Of course, this is not mounted in place yet, and what I'll end up doing is taking some masonite and beveling a 45 degrees so it's butted up to the cork road bed, which will also raise my building up a little bit too, which will be good, and do it that way. And that's kind of where I'm at with things. But you know, got my Alco RS1 there. It's got a few empty hoppers on the back of it. So right now I'm just kind of simulating that it's waiting for track clearance to go by, and then this one is waiting on that train to go by so it can go back to Jonesboro, which is staging. So that's currently where I'm at with things. Making some progress. I'm hoping to get Wiener loops started, so I can get a backdrop back there. So I'm going to have to go get some masonite here pretty soon, because I'm definitely going to need it. And see if I can't try to get that figured out and go ahead and start working on backdrops. So, alright, well, other than that, this is pretty much going to wrap this week's episode of the Delta Pine Subdivision Layout Update. So like I said, 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern Time, Humanity Junction. Make sure you go check it out for Sidetrack Sunday. Other than that, y'all be safe out there. God bless, and happy railroading.